Yeah, well, thank goodness the internet is still working. I wanted to share an article with you tonight. A very important article, actually, was published over at Information Clearinghouse. I'll post a link to it once I get around to it. It's too late tonight. Entitled "The Seething." It was an article written by David Glenn Cox. And I want to say from the outset here that many of us will agree with some of the sentiments expressed in this article, but it misses the bigger picture completely, in my opinion. And the rebuttal will come within this video to this article. So bear with me. So this is David Glenn Cox talking here, not myself. People generally are passive and understanding, but as the pressure builds, the passivity evaporates, and what is left behind is crystallized seething. A feeling that says, I'm being screwed and I'm tired of it, and you hide and watch what happens to the next person. So he goes on to cite some examples in this article, and one of those examples is this. Passengers on American Airlines Flight 1901 in Miami booed and heckled the flight crew after they arrived an hour and 15 minutes late. When the crew got there, they were late and everyone started to boo them, said a passenger, and then they closed them behind glass doors, and they kind of threatened us that they weren't going to fly us out of here because of the way people were acting. So people were getting very agitated. And no, fly they didn't. The flight crew's feelings, according to this article, were hurt at being booed for holding up a plane load of passengers, and so they refused to fly the plane. When American Airlines couldn't find a backup crew for the flight was of course canceled altogether, and people had to be put up in hotels. So everyone was royally pissed off, as you could imagine. The second example this author cites is a very good one. Well, and now they have since come out with a new program where I can prepay my groceries. For every $100 I can prepay, Kroger will credit me an additional 10% towards my next purchase. Where can you get a deal like that outside of the Weimar Republic? Nothing says good times like preparing for groceries, which might not even be there in a couple of weeks. They can mask and obfuscate all they want, but the bloom is off the rose now. NASCAR reports that attendance may fall 10% because of higher fuel prices. That's Republican stomping ground. You can take away almost everything, but not NASCAR. So pack your bags. This is where danger lives, the author says. The bulk of American people are struggling to make it now, and what happens when they reach the tipping point and no longer can? It's a very legitimate question. The jig is up, the game is over, no more rebates, no more gimmicks, tax cuts, or hollow promises. The seething is just beginning. It is the job of the government to ensure domestic tranquility. He's not necessarily for that tranquility, but there's a very serious rebuttal to this kind of oversimplification of things, and that's why I entitled my video Divide and Conquer. So the rebuttal, which comes from another person, which I basically wholeheartedly agree with, is this. Yes, the author is somewhat right. People are seething, but in typical fashion, people are taking out their frustrations on others like themselves and letting the lying scum traitors who supposedly represent them completely off the hook. They'd rather badmouth airline crews, people who have seen their wages go steadily downward over the last decade, people who fly planes that very likely have not been properly maintained because of layoffs among ground crews and contracting out of maintenance services, and people who have in many cases lost their supposedly secure pensions after 30 years of work and seen everything that they've worked for evaporate, even as the CEOs of these very same big companies bail out with golden parachutes. And, you know, some of these people may have been late because of reasons completely beyond their control, such as working a 14-hour day beforehand, and it might not be completely safe to fly the plane 5 hours right afterwards. Yeah, citizens, especially some of us yuppies out here, who can still afford to fly, we should be so proud of ourselves for our cowardice in taking out our insecurities on people who can't fight back either. Or you get unhappy at the local Kroger's or Safeway store because prices are going up. So who are you going to take it out on? The stock clerk, the checker, the butcher, the produce people, or even the local manager? So you take it out on the very same people who can do nothing about the bigger situation either. People who are just as powerless as you and who are feeling the exact same emotions and the kind of loss that you're feeling. People whose jobs had enviable wages and benefits 30 years ago, but now, due to anti-union sentiment and propaganda, and cost-cutting, massive cost-cutting by management, which changes regularly due to mergers and buying and selling out at the corporate global level, you know, what more can I say? I see this kind of thing happening every day where I work. I work in medicine, and people like myself, nurses and administrative people in their jobs are having to deal with frustrations of very, very frustrated patients because their insurance companies are no longer paying for needed medical care. And so people are getting angry. Of course, you know, some of that anger might be a bit misplaced. So don't you see that this is the perfect divide and conquer strategy? The very thing that the financial bigwigs thrive on. A strategy which doesn't give a rat's ass about you or me or anyone else, the middle class, let alone poorer people. While they get richer and move to Dubai on their own man-made islands. You know, this is the response posted to that article by someone else, but I do agree with it. And how many of us poor seething people write, as this person says, the scum in Congress, calling them the traitors and war criminals, which they are? How many of us pick up a telephone and really unload on those bastards? The few of you who contact them at all undoubtedly approach them, these sold-out, corporate-owned pretenders, with great deference and all the respect that you were taught to believe in. All of us should be telling them in no uncertain terms just exactly what we think of them, and exactly what we will be doing to get them out of office. We should remind them that they are accomplices to war crimes, and we should remind them that it is treason to make war on other people and on our own people in economic terms here at home. We should let them know that we are serious. But as the writer goes on to say, but hey, I forgot, we live in the US. We prefer to take out our dissatisfaction on those like us. We lack the stomach to effect any real change by taking on those that really rule us. We prefer to be satisfied in choosing amongst phonies. It had to be said. Thanks for listening.